here with my mentor Chelsea, and we are talking about Unit 10, Standard 9, which is talking about involvement in activities and engagement in professional development activities. So I've taken notes about different aspects that apply to me. Mm-hmm. So one of them, candidates understand the importance of ongoing professional learning and the use of evidence to inform their teaching. Candidates engage in ongoing professional learning. I definitely think that it's important to be involved and to continuously be learning more. Unfortunately, that's something I don't really get to do in Korea, mostly because of the language barrier. Those things do exist and my coworkers go to them, but they don't invite me, which is fine. I mean, that's what it is. So I'm excluded a lot from professional development because it's all in Korean. However, I do volunteer at any and all events at my school, by my city, and the district that they invite me. So, for example, I volunteered at the annual English retreat for middle school students 3 years in a row. I've volunteered at Halloween and holiday events. I've hosted biannual English camps. I'm leading my second Global English Club, participating and performing in UNESCO Heritage Night, the city's movie night, planning and performing with students at the school festival, participating in sports day that also takes annually. I also consider getting my teacher certification and my master's to be part of that development. And then we have a good network of foreigners who teach in Korea that I'm in relatively constant contact, and we have a Facebook group, so we're always asking questions and looking for advice. And if there's ever there are a lot of different like ESL get-togethers for teachers, so we're always informed on what's going on, and if I have any problems or questions, I can reach out to them. So it's a good network.
Which one of those activities is your favorite, or do you think you get the most from?
I would say probably the annual English retreat for middle school students. We spend 3 days up in the mountains with all second grade middle school students, which, because I teach middle school, it's really helpful for me. And it's nice because there are English activities and English essays, and they do presentations, but it's also a really good way to get to know students more on a friendly and not one-on-one, but it's usually a small group of like 7 to 10 students per foreigner.
Okay.
So I really enjoy that. It really helps me to like connect and kind of get in the mindset of my students and talk with them more than I might be able to at my 600 student school.
Right. I would imagine that would be kind of fun, actually.
Yeah. I wish that our city and our district allowed for more like networking, and if we could go and watch other foreigners teach and like some kind of more open dialogue so that we could learn off of each other, because what I've learned from the fellow teachers has always been in social settings where we've been talking about teaching and something came up that became very helpful. And that's happened several times, but it'd be nice if there were a more formal setting in which that could happen.
I remember specifically in a previous class that you used the like random number generator that you said you had gotten off of someone else.
Yep, exactly. Just like that. And then candidates use evidence to continually evaluate their practice, particularly the effects of his or her choices and actions on others, students, families, other professionals, and the community. And as I mentioned previously, I'm very active in all the events and activities I'm able to go to or that I'm invited to. And I think that sets a tone for students, families, other professionals, and the community, as the language barrier can allow. There are a lot of things I'm really limited by because I can't communicate effectively with the parents and often the students, and definitely my coworkers or colleagues or administration. But I think being there and being present, and most of these things are not paid. And so I think that at the very least shows a dedication and a respect for the students and for the city and the community and the country. And so that's one way. And then another question they had put in here was how much data I use that affects my teaching, which unfortunately not that much, unless you use the term very, very loosely. So some ways that I try not so much data, but some ways that I reflect on my teaching and different ways that I can improve it through experience, is by when I teach a lesson, I always kind of reflect and think like, what came up that I wasn't expecting that was helpful? What came up that wasn't helpful? What can I improve? And I take notes on that, and it's permanently in my book. It's been attached to my book so that in the future I can see, oh, that worked out really well. And I've taken pretty extensive notes for whoever might take my place so that they can see some things that worked as well. I use data from my student speaking tests to determine how successful they were, whether the questions were too easy or too hard, making sure the students understood the rubric that they were being graded with. My first about year and a half, there was no rubric because I was given no rubric. I was just given a list of students' names and a list of the questions to ask, and that was it. And I feel really bad for the students who took that first speaking test because it was not prepared. So now that I've got a good system going, I was doing my speaking test last week and recorded some of my students' responses, and then I recorded after explaining like where they fit into the rubric and what score I would have given them, and recorded about 10 to 15 students of each grade level so that whoever comes in after me can have a greater understanding. And I've written a whole document, so even though that data was not made available to me at the beginning, I'm hoping it can help someone else in the future. And then I also check the students' journals at the end of each chapter and grade them. And even though that is not included in their official scores, it helps me to determine, the vast majority got a 3, which is the best score you can get. Then I know they have a good understanding and I've done well. If they are getting 1s and 2s, then I know there's a disconnect somewhere and that we should recover that issue. Unfortunately, as I guess you know, in Korea, all grading is based off of, at least at my school, all grading is based off of 4 exams, 2 speaking tests, and 2 end of the semester assessments where they go through their textbook and make sure they've written in it and put in answers and stuff. And the only one I'm personally involved in is the speaking test. So I'm really looking forward to being more involved and having more responsibility at whatever future teaching jobs I have. And I'm looking forward to giving homework, which sounds ridiculous, but I never appreciated everything I learned through having several different learning assessments, homework, and I see a definite lack of well-rounded students here who haven't gained a lot from that. So I'm looking forward to taking on more responsibility.
I could see that being something to look forward to. I am in a hagwon, so I can give homework, but it is frustrating when the parents and teachers act like it's not important because the foreigner teacher assigned it as opposed to the Korean teacher.
I feel like we're not held at the same caliber or expectation.
Well, it's kind of assumed that we're just the dancing monkeys to entertain, right? But we really, we do far more than that. And one of the main things is, of course, the phonics and like sounding correctly and the culture that they get from like learning from a native. But our other things don't really matter to them.
Yeah. And then some other ones, did candidates use culturally relevant learning experiences, and candidates adapt to their teaching practice to meet the needs of each student, which are kind of similar. This is something we've talked about in a great deal, but I generally cater all of my classes to culturally relevant learning experiences, mostly because many of them are not particularly interested in English, and if they are, it's mainly for an academic perspective. It's not like I want to be fluent or I'm really interested in foreign culture. It's that they want to get a good score on their exam because having good scores in English is seen as a very desirable thing. So many of them are not particularly interested in English, and it's pretty distant from their everyday lives, especially the language and the culture. So to make English more interesting and accessible to them, I try to make it as culturally relevant as possible. And another way I do this is by teaching similar or differing aspects of their culture and others. So some of the ways I've done that is like having a Halloween lesson, which they've all heard of Halloween but don't know anything of it. Or I just taught a Thanksgiving lesson, and they have something similar to Thanksgiving, but of course it's different. So I taught a lesson on like how it's similar and how it's different, and then you know, the history of it and stuff, which none of them had any idea, and they'd all heard of it, but they didn't know anything about it. So in a way they can say, oh, this is similar to what I have, but it's also different. And so it makes a lot of connections and makes it more interesting rather than having to focus on more of the mundane aspects of English to make it slightly more interesting.
Well, especially anything event-based is also fun too.
Yeah.
Did you have a Thanksgiving party?
No, but our Christmas party's in 2 weeks.
Oh, exciting! So, what are you doing for the Christmas party?
My global English club. Actually, this is my 3rd annual Christmas party, and each year my global English club has helped throw it with me. So we got a bunch of. We went shopping and got a bunch of little gifts to raffle off, and there's like, they have to participate in making a Christmas card and playing a game. A couple games, and then they have to get a stamp at each station, and then they turn it in for a raffle, and then at the end a bunch of them will get gifts.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, it is really fun. I'm a little worried though, each year it's gotten bigger and bigger and my classroom is not so big anymore after so many kids come, but it should be really fun. And now that it's been going on for so long, I think it's collected, you know, kids that are now more aware of what it is and that it is something fun. It's not like some English thing that is really daunting to them. So I'm looking forward. I think this one will be the best one yet, but I hope whoever takes my job will keep on doing it.
Yeah, whoever takes your job after you will definitely have big shoes to follow. You know, the whole I mean, there's teachers make their mark everywhere, but like you've been there for more than a year, so the whole you've been there 3 years and then someone to come in, whoa.
Yeah, I was lucky. I followed after someone who the girls really enjoy, so I feel a little bit bad. So I'm trying to take really good notes and giving them a lot, because sometimes when you come into Korea, and maybe this is true with most jobs, but when you come in blind. And so it's just like fake it till you make it, and I feel like I've kind of made it as far as I can here, or at least for the most part. So I think this is something good that I can contribute so others can learn from what I've learned.
Do you have any recommendations for the teacher who comes after you as far as trying to get invited to the teacher trainings or anything?
The more I volunteered, the more I was invited to, and I had to make a point of, people often think that's not required, so they're not going to want to do it. So I had to make a point of telling my coworkers, if anything happens, please let me know, I'm interested. And same with my boss at the district office, Chris, to let him know that anything that's going on, let me know and I'm interested. So it's been good.
So whoever comes after should definitely do that as well.
Let people know that you want to, because a lot of times they might not think of you. But even if they do think of you, they might just automatically think it's not required, so you won't want to.
It's a pretty valid assumption for a lot of people, actually, as sad as it is. But I've actually been to the teacher trainings here, and they're horrible because they are completely in Korean, and there's often some kind of promotional thing that goes along with it, so it's not even entirely educational. But the last one was all about I don't even know. They showed pictures of stones, and there was a dance, and as an academy teacher, I was required to go, and foreigner, Korean, didn't matter. All subject academies we had to go. So in some ways, you're kind of lucky.
Yeah, I think I'm lucky, but I wish they would. Again, I think this falls under us not being taken seriously, but I wish that they would do some kind of event or development thing for the foreigners that was done in English. And they have some when you come in for orientation initially, but there's nothing to continue growing and developing. So I feel like that really shorthands us and the kids ultimately. So there's not a lot more. So that's something I'm looking forward to in the future. Definitely being with Teach Now has made it a lot easier for me to keep those things in mind. Things I wouldn't have thought to do. It's made me a lot more reflective as a teacher. Any other thoughts or suggestions?
Honestly, not really.
That's good.
Okay.
Okay.